You just heard about the applications that combine unique global data sets with LiDAR data to create some breakthrough capabilities in monitoring forest carbon stocks and emissions. And our next speaker is very much interested in not only the capture of this type of information, but in the archiving and availability of it. The possibilities associated with making an archive for the entire surface of the Earth are endless. And our next speaker is going to tell you about his call for a massive international effort to 3D scan the entire landmass of the planet. Christopher Fisher, PhD, is an archaeologist, professor of anthropology at Colorado State University, and the founder of Earth Archive. Dr. Fisher's research has centered on unraveling the complex set of social and environmental variables that resulted in the formation of late post-classic civilizations in Mexico. During the course of his work in 2007, he and his team first documented an ancient city which has been investigated using traditional archaeological techniques coupled with airborne LiDAR. His recent work is focused on building that 3D dimensional record of the entire planet called Earth Archive. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Fisher.
I'm a professor, so I have to keep track of time up here because I'm contractually obligated with Colorado State University to take as long as possible to fill up my course times. I should also say that, I am an archaeologist. I'm not a remote sensor, so I'm a little nervous. This is not the normal audience that I would speak to. And on our first day here yesterday morning, the organizers were very generous in providing us with a table, which is 313, by the way, in case you have time and you want to stop and visit us. And as we were setting up, the first person that came up to our table was, we kind of explained what we were doing, and he's like, isn't there some crazy archaeology professor that's trying to do that? Yeah, okay. So, the most astounding place I've ever been is the Mosquitia jungle in Honduras. And on my first day in this amazing place, as I walked towards the ancient city that I was there to document, I realized that this was the only place I'd ever been where I didn't see a single shred of plastic. That's how remote it was. And I think it's really surprising for people to hear, maybe not necessarily in this crowd, but I think outside of this crowd, that there are still places on this earth that are so remote, so untouched by people. But it's true. There are still thousands of places where humans haven't stepped for centuries, maybe forever. But we're running out of time. It's a great time to be a scientist. We have the tools and technology to understand our planet like never before. We're going to hear about many of those during this conference. And yet we're running out of time. In the coming decades, forests will turn to grasslands. The shapes of continents will become unrecognizable due to rising sea levels. Vast swaths of the world will become desertified. And all of this will have devastating impacts on the world's most vulnerable people. I feel an urgency to my work that I didn't feel 20 years ago. How can we document everything before it's too late? We only have one chance to save this planet. As scientists, innovators, social scientists, and social activists and entrepreneurs, we need data to know what works. And right now in 2021, that data set does not exist. We believe, and I firmly believe, that the answer is to promote a high-resolution LiDAR scan of the entire Earth's surface, starting with areas that are most threatened. And perhaps not for the people in this room, but I think generally, this sounds like science fiction. It seems impossible. The scale of it seems unreachable. But we already have the technology to do this, and some of the new scanners that are coming online are fully capable of reaching this goal. In 2019, we watched in horror as the Notre Dame Cathedral went up in flames. Miraculously, scientists had scanned the cathedral using LiDAR in 2010, art historians actually. And those records are proving invaluable to the reconstruction. We need a scan like Notre Dame, but for the Earth. Imagine if we had a replica of the Earth with every rock, tree, and settlement captured in high-resolution 3D. What could we do with that information? And I know that there are people here in this crowd who could probably school me on this, but I'll just list a couple of key things that I always think about. We could map every tree, document its size, height, width, calculate how much carbon it contains, biomass, fuel loads. We could help build resilient communities and infrastructure, and we could help the most vulnerable people with land tenure and other disputes, along with hundreds of other uses. But perhaps most importantly, we would build a legacy for our children. Oops, one slide back. And we know how to do this. We can use airborne LiDAR, which everybody in this room is familiar with, so I don't have to explain what it is. But we believe that airborne LiDAR is the ultimate conservation tool. Records everything from the ground surface to the uppermost point on the landscape, whether it's a bird or the top of a tree or whatever, in high-resolution 3D. It's a permanent digital record that does not degrade like a photograph. And as a permanent record, it can be curated in perpetuity. And we know it works because we've done it before. I've successfully used this technology to discover lost cities, cultures, and landscapes throughout the Americas. And airborne LiDAR has become a powerful tool for science and industry. In this work and my work with LiDAR and archaeology made me wonder, what if we could use LiDAR to scan the entire Earth? And that's actually not exactly the way it happened. I was actually sitting having beers at a great brewery with my friend Steve Lease in Fort Collins. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if we'd had a LiDAR scan of the entire surface of the Earth? Oh, that's completely crazy. That'll never happen. And then after a couple of beers, it just didn't seem like such a crazy idea anymore. And that's basically how the Earth Archive happened. That idea became the Earth Archive, a nonprofit organization and mission that I launched from the TED stage in 2019. The Earth Archive the purpose of the Earth Archive is threefold: document, explore, and inherit. First, document. Create a baseline record of the Earth as it is today to more effectively mitigate the climate crisis. Second, explore. Build a virtual planet, a digital twin accessible to any number of scientists, industry, and whomever, so we can better understand our world today. And third, inherit. Preserve a record of the Earth for our grandchildren's grandchildren so they can study and recreate our lost cultural and ecological heritage. Like Notre Dame, we can't imagine how these records will be used, but we know they'll be critically important. And it is also critically important to open source these data. Make them available to everyone around the world for free to accelerate both science and industry and to accelerate the kind of data fusion that Tara was talking about. We believe that we could scan the entire surface of the Earth for $5 billion, which is a fraction of the cost of Jeff Bezos' new yacht, which he's having so much trouble getting into that Dutch harbor. And we believe that we could scan the entire Amazon for $20 million. It's a lot of money, but that sort of investment is in the cost of that kind of investment, the benefits from that investment is incalculable. When we first launched the Earth Archive, just as COVID hit, we had the permissions, we had the money to begin scanning in the Amazon, and it actually delayed everything. We are about to release one of our first data sets, possibly by the end of the week, and it's the Muir Woods Redwood Grove in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, just north of San Francisco. It was flown by one of our sponsors, GEO1, who also has a booth here, 312 I think it is. And we've used tech from Voxel Maps, who also have a booth here, to visualize and begin to analyze these data. GEO1 flew Muir Woods at about 200 points per square meter as a demonstration case to see what we could do with these data. The results are pretty fantastic. What we've learned from these data, using the AI capabilities from voxel maps, we've been able to document every tree, the height of every tree, et cetera. And we've been able to generate carbon estimates, more accurate carbon estimates for Muir Woods, biomass and carbon estimates, and we're working on fuel loads. Interestingly, the current published data for Muir Woods come from 3-depth data, great data, QL1. Our estimates using the new scan are significantly lower than the scientific estimates that have been derived from the 3-depth data. There are actually about half as many trees and about half as much biomass, half as much carbon. To me, and the other interesting thing about that is that we've documented about 10 trees that are taller than supposedly the tallest tree in Muir Woods. They're almost 80 meters tall. That's a big tree. Muir Woods is just north of, this isn't the center of the Amazon. It's just north of San Francisco. It's an intensely studied zone. And it really, for me, this is a little scary in that if we're able to, with some back of the envelope calculations, demonstrate that these carbon estimates, the tree numbers, et cetera, for Muir Woods are off, it really makes me wonder about other places in the world that aren't as well studied. And it underscores for us the need to get these high-resolution scans accomplished before the world fundamentally changes, which is happening at a very rapid clip, and to get them open sourced so we can begin to study them. So I hope you see this talk as a call to action, because that's really what it's about. And I came here and I agreed to do this talk both as a call to action for this industry, which I think has to spearhead this kind of scanning. And also, we are, of course, always searching for partners and people to help us with this analysis. We're booth 313. Please come visit us. We have some stickers. I'll hand them out till they run out. Thank you very much.